Welcome to Heidi Relationships. Today, we'll read some more stories from Reddit. But before we start, I would really appreciate if you could subscribe to the channel, like the video if you enjoyed it, and maybe leave a comment down below. That would help the channel a lot. Thank you very much in advance.
The first one is titled, My Wife, 45, and Her Ex, 50-something, and Their Texts. My wife of 10 years and her friend of 20 years are having what I consider an affair. Maybe I'm wrong, as I'm not usually too perceptive about these things. Over the years I've stumbled across text messages between them where the guy is flirting and coming onto her, and she's playing it off as silly. I've confronted her before, but here we are nearly 3 years past the first time I found messages. This latest started a couple of weeks back with the guy asking her opinion about some work-related issues. They met at work and supposedly work different shifts. She works the evening shift and is off at 11 p.m., though she occasionally stays for a double shift. The guy works in a different T-section, so according to her they haven't seen each other in years. Maybe not, I don't know. She told me she had talked to him about this work issue, and I thought nothing of it. Yesterday as I was folding the laundry, a message came to her phone that she had left on the table. I saw the message on the screen, and it was some pet name for her and something about what he'd like to do to you with peppers. I confronted her last night and she went into her excuse about depression, anxiety and low self-esteem. And since I've been too busy with work and not paying attention to her, she just likes to hear what this other guy says. Long story short, it was my fault. But she loves me and wants me only. Today, her phone was on the counter again and another message came in. The guy asked her for phone sex, though he enjoys their non-sexual talk too. He's awaiting her answer, as she texted him this morning to tell him to remember she's in a relationship. Good to know that's what 10 years of marriage gets you, a relationship. So here I am, waiting for the kids to fall asleep to have yet another conversation. Different this time, though. Wish me luck. A user in the comments said, Your wife is having an emotional affair and is gaslighting you that it is your fault because you are not giving her enough attention, depression, anxiety and low self-esteem. She is basically saying she is flirting with a man she has known for 20 years, to make herself feel better. She does not care in the slightest that she is causing you to have low self-esteem, because of her choices. If I were in your shoes, that conversation would have the following points. We are married, not in a relationship. All contact with this man is to cease, as they do not work together, just at the same place, or she needs to find a new job, or you will send the screenshots of his phone sex requests to HR and his partner. She needs to book an appointment with a therapist for depression, anxiety and low self-esteem and get professional assistance for her problems, as neither you nor her AP are responsible for how she feels. Because getting an ego boost from some other man will never solve those 3 issues. This had been going on for so long that it is just normal for her now. She doesn't even try to hide it anymore. She cannot see how she is disrespecting you, your children or your marriage, just so she can feel better about herself. The next one is titled, Update to My Wife, Her Ex, and Their Texts. The story so far saw texts from him about produce and wanting phone intercourse. As stated, I put the kids to bed and then I went to our den, where we normally watch TV and talk, and more, before sleep. That's our usual routine. She was on the floor with a sheepish look and a movie about family, ready to go, a movie I like and she's indifferent to, and asked, Do you want to do me? I excused myself and went to the bathroom. I really had to go, but it allowed me to collect my thoughts. I came downstairs and told her I had seen the message from the guy. Her eyes dropped for a second and she said something along the lines of, Yes. I was going to tell you about that. The reason she hadn't answered him immediately, it's because she didn't know what to say to his asking for phone sex and how erotic talking to her is, or at least that's what she said. She apologized profusely and said she thought it was just silly talk, and she didn't realize he felt like this about her. She doesn't feel like that about him and that she was really sorry she hurt me. That obviously it wasn't appropriate and that once again, she was sorry. This was maybe a 15-minute talk. Then our middle child came down because she couldn't sleep, and we stopped. We all watched the movie and she kept trying to touch me and get me aroused. I said, no, thank you. And since it was getting late, I went to bed. This afternoon we met in town as is our custom before she goes to work, and she brought all 3 kids, so I couldn't finish up our conversation. In between meetings at work, I wrote an email that I planned to send to her. I know she likes texts, but I'm really more of an email kind of guy. I love her, of course. But I cannot accept this. The saga continues. The next one is titled, Update to the Update about my wife, her ex, and their texts. She works on the weekends, and we never have much time to ourselves in the morning. As I mentioned, we spoke Thursday for a few minutes, and we left it where I thought it was understood. She volunteered that she wouldn't talk to him and that she was very sorry, she hurt me. She worked Friday and Saturday, and today. As she usually works 3 days a week. I checked her phone today and there were no messages, they had been deleted. He was still on her contacts. After she left for work her watch beeped, and she had left it over her computer. Long story short, she had contacted him after our talk and apologized for not being able to have phone sex with him. That she's in a relationship and she wouldn't want to do anything to hurt me. Then they agreed to keep it friendly and non-sexual for the years to come. I got their messages, screenshots and downloaded them. I texted her to tell her I had seen them, and she called me immediately. We talked for about 45 minutes. We agreed to try to work it out. I'm seeing a lawyer this week. I think I'll be getting a divorce. I'll update you in case I go through with it. The next one is titled, I, 30M. Am triggering my girlfriend, 32F, because I need space. We're in our 30s and have been dating for about 8 months. I have been doing weekly EMDR sessions since May, and needless to say, it has been very intense. A lot is coming up, and it is very overwhelming. For the entirety of our relationship, we have pretty much been together 24/7. She loved it, I didn't mind for the most part, but not wanting to hurt her feelings by taking space definitely had a part to play in it. We just got back from a 2-week holiday where I met her friends and family for the first time. It was stressful, we had a huge blowout on the way there, and I came back exhausted and needing some space. The other day we were hanging out and I was telling her about some day-long walks I wanted to do by myself this summer. Her response before I was even finished speaking was to cut me off with accusations that I'm making all these plans without her. I calmly explained that that wasn't the case, and that we will be spending time together. I also said I didn't want to continue talking about it because it was making her upset. Her response was to throw up her hands and run home, leaving me on the sidewalk. I recently brought up the idea of going home to see family, who I haven't seen in a year, and with everything going on, need the support right now. Because of some possible plans with her friends and us in the same week, that weren't set in stone, she got upset. We got in another fight tonight because I'm taking space. Like I said, EMDR is extremely overwhelming, and I need space for that, on top of just normal, healthy, space. Which we have discussed. I'm setting boundaries. I'm not being rude, or mean, but I booked the flight to go see my fam, and I told her that this relationship is important to me, but my mental health is more important. Yes, I'm making plans with myself, and apparently this is the worst thing in the world. I know it triggers her, but in my last relationship I put my needs on hold for the same reason, and it did not end well because of it. I understand the importance of quality time, and meeting her friends, but I have never felt rawer and more messed up in life because of EMDR, and she's making me feel like an absolute asshole for taking some time. A user in the comments said, doing things separately and having space in a relationship is perfectly normal and healthy. I take at least an hour to myself every day, and so does my partner. It's important because it allows us to unwind and relax in a different way to how we do together. Do you know why she is so against you having separate plans or space? Is there a past issue with a BF or close friend? It sounds like there might be due to her reaction, and if that's the case it's something you need to talk about. You are wanting time and to see your family, especially while undergoing therapy, is very normal and understandable. It seems as though you have been considerate and kind in how this has been communicated. But now it's time for her to communicate properly with you. If she can or won't, and then to me that is a red flag. The next one is titled, Update. I, 30M, am triggering my girlfriend, 32F, because I need space. Yesterday, I asked for a break from her long messages to me because they are overwhelming. Her response was to issue an ultimatum, deciding how long my break is and that I need to have an answer and a plan by that time. We literally saw each other 3 days ago. She continued on saying that, I don't think you get how hard it is for me to just give you all of this space, how all day since Monday I feel anxiety washing over me, overwhelming. She also said that when I don't acknowledge her existence and her sacrifice of her own needs and wants for mine, regarding me taking space, and how that makes her anxious, it makes her feel invisible and worthless. That is also a direct quote. I took in the advice and words from my original post. I told her that I've repeatedly asked for space, she isn't respecting it, and I will not ask again. I told her that I am doing nothing to make her anxious, and that I can't put my mental health on hold because my taking space is triggering her, I cannot. I did the exact same thing in my last relationship. My ex had the same issues, and I gave up my space for 3 years to make her feel better. I honestly thought I was doing the right thing and being a good boyfriend. I was wrong. That was last night, and her response was, wow. I was not mean or rude, I was honest and firm, and it's frustrating that she doesn't get it. I'm not sure how else to respond, or what else to do at this point because she freaks out, and I'm tired of fighting. I'm just asking for a break from her messages, and it's getting blown way out of proportion. I'm not sure how to address this, please help. I'm honestly contemplating breaking up with her. It's been a rough relationship, lots of fighting, with a lot of boundaries being crossed. She has anger issues, she knows it, and when we fight she does things, not normal, healthy things like taking space for example, that we both know cross a line. Not saying I don't have my issues, I do, and I am actively working on them in therapy, but our fighting is really unhealthy, and it brings me into a really bad place. I love her though, this is hard. A user in the comments said, I think you buried the lead a little in this update. It's been a rough relationship, lots of fighting, with a lot of boundaries being crossed. This does not sound like a good relationship. It's only 8 months old. This is supposed to be the easy, fun honeymoon period. What will happen when you face more adversity like death, sickness, financial woes, children, etc.? Please think about what you want out of your life and how that compares with the life you're currently leading by maintaining this romantic relationship. The next one is titled, WIBTA if I told my wife it's her fault the kids don't care to give her gifts? So, look, my wife is a great mother in many ways, and I love her dearly, but she is shit at getting gifts. Back when we were dating, when I rang her doorbell with a dozen roses, she opened the door and immediately said, you can't afford that. This, I'm afraid, is fairly typical of her response when given anything. Not even strained politeness but usually a directly negative response. It's hard for me. My family are big gift givers but I'm an adult and I owe her enough to find other ways to show it. So, on birthdays I buy her the exact thing she requests and other times I just restrain myself entirely. Our kids, 5 meters, 2F though, lack this perspective. They do what kids do, look mommy I found this stick in the yard for you. They find her response to this as demoralizing as I do. I work nights and sleep in late. I woke up this morning to a text to the effect that she had asked the kids to make her a card for Mother's Day and they responded with great enthusiasm that they wanted to make them. For my mother. The long-standing tension between wife and mother is largely outside the scope of this post, but it is sadly quite severe, which partly explains why this bothered her as much as it clearly did. She thinks the fact that the kids prefer their grandma is my fault. I didn't point it out in the moment for obvious reasons, and I ultimately pestered the kids into making her cards, kid scribbles that I helped them sign their names to, but WIBTA if I found a good moment to remonstrate with her? To explain that the reason nobody wants to give her nice things is because she habitually shits all over any she gets that she didn't pick out herself in advance. And that my mom always shows enthusiasm and delight in every bunch of dandelions or lump of dirt she gets, so the kids naturally think of her when they think of giving nice things to people? Edit. I'm getting predictably dragged for my handling of Mother's Day. I will provide some background. For years we have had a pattern. After numerous abortive attempts to surprise her, with gifts, with dates or outings, with meals I made, and so on, I have largely given up on creativity. So, for birthdays, for Christmas, for Mother's Day, and so on, what I do is, I ask her what she wants and then I do that. So earlier this week, I asked her what she'd like to do for Mother's Day. She sorts of snorted and said, nothing. Then a couple of days later, she said that what she wanted for Mother's Day was to get her and the kids dressed up nice and have me take a picture, as opposed to having anybody else come by to take it. She's on the extra cautious end of pandemic preparedness. I said I'd help with that but asked her to remember that I was working overnight and would be asleep for much of the morning. She has a favorite candy bar that she always places on the grocery list whenever I go. I do most of our shopping. I bought her a bunch of them on the last trip but held one out to save for Mother's Day. Last night, since I wouldn't be up, I gave it to the kids to give to her. All very secretive and hush-hush. They enjoyed the conspiracy and ran into the room with big smiles on their faces to give it to her. She, however, was disposed to inform them that she had already had one that day. She put it casually to the side. She wasn't mean, just disinterested and tactless. I guess the kids pretty much shrugged it off. I work all night. I go to sleep at 9 a.m. I wake up at 2 p.m. I read this text described above. I get up and go downstairs and convince the kids to draw cards on some paper. I raise the family photo she asked about. She doesn't want to. Maybe I'm clumsy. Maybe I'm doing a bad job adjusting to her love language. Certainly, I'm not the kind of mind reader it would take to know I was supposed to ignore her stated preference about how to mark the day. But kindly do not accuse me of not trying. Edit 2. Thanks, everyone, for the insightful and candid responses. Although my judgment, which apparently the community supports, is that my wife is in the wrong here, I want to make it absolutely clear that she is an amazing and capable mother. If our kids, one of whom has serious chronic health issues, survive to adulthood, her meticulous, detail-oriented, and thorough approach to life and parenting will be a big reason why. We're looking at the flip side of that here, and most of us are in agreement it's a problem, but it's only a problem, not an indication that she's a horrible abusive wife and mother. She makes our children feel loved and safe and special every single day in a dozen different ways. A user in the comments said, NTA, but I wouldn't necessarily compare her gift receiving skills to your mom's, especially if they don't have a good relationship. My mom sucks at receiving gifts and I wish someone would have told her how hurtful she was being when I was growing up. Another user said, NTA. You need to address this. Your wife should not be shaming your kids for getting gifts. Also, in the future, you should be the one making sure your kids make Mother's Day cards and/or gifts. They do not know they are young. This is your job. The next one is titled, A few days after posting that, wife and I were sitting on the couch, and I piped up and said this. I think you should try to be more enthusiastic when the kids give you things. I didn't bring up the previous argument, and on the wise advice of many people in the other thread, I didn't bring up my mother. That was literally all I had to say, although I was ready with follow-up. She said, yeah, I've kind of been thinking about that. I should show more appreciation. I thanked her for receiving it that way and we went about our respective business. So that was that. I've been watching to see if she meant it, and there has been a huge improvement. Just this week 5 meters made her something out of Legos. She says, thank you. I love that you're so creative. Even when 2F brought her the blanket from her own bed. The kids are not allowed to mess with our bed without us. She said, thanks, now I can be snuggly, but remember you're not supposed to do that. She mostly remembers to do this on her own, although a couple of times I gave her a look. She's not good at it, to be honest. Her attempts are uniformly pretty unconvincing to me, but they seem to be convincing to the kids, who smile and laugh and sometimes come tell me about it. from my position 5 feet away. Daddy, I gave Mom a blanket and she can be snuggly, but I forgot about I'm not supposed to do that. 2F is big on long run-on sentences, which I'm pretty sure she gets from me. But anyway, wife is trying and she's being quite consistent, and maybe actual skill in it will come with time. So, thank you all for the good advice on abstracting the general problem from the specific dispute involving the mill, and for all your kind support. Thanks even to the individual who's 100% we're going to get divorced. We're not, though. We can work through stuff and become stronger as a couple together. This is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed the relationship stories. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video and write a comment. I really appreciate your support and it helps my channel so much. Thank you.